What is up, guys? NinjaNick333. We're back here for top 8 of the Pokemon Orlando Regional Championship stream. As you can see here, I was right, both Moffitt and his opponent, who ended up making top 8, which is kind of crazy. Also, the dude with the leafy camo poncho, still don't even know what that card does. Whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects stun to the VMAX, VSTAR or VMAX it's attached to, so I guess you can't be bossed. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good enough tool over, like, Choice Spell at the moment. But yeah, besides that, it's the one Mew, the one Lost Box Rayquaza, and then everything else is just Lugia. So again, the conversion rate ended up being like slightly over 30% day 1 Lugia into, or slightly, what was it, it was about 26% day 1 Lugia, 30 to 31% I believe day 2 was Lugia, so a pretty decent conversion rate going up like that. And then into top 8, 6 out of the 8 decks being Lugia is pretty darn good. So that just goes to show you that Lugia is the best deck. So, even when you're trying to hard counter it, you don't hard counter it enough. But I do believe that this top 8 match, something must have happened to the stream, and it did split into 2. So we are going to have to swap between videos for a moment when we get to that part. But it looks like Isaiah Bradner on the left here for our top 8 match. You can see his achievements here: 2023 Toronto top 8, 2022 NAIC finalist, Indianapolis regional finalist, EUIC top 8. So a whole lot of very current, very top heavy placements for Isaiah. Hopefully he doesn't grab 2 item cards off of an Irida. I do know Lugia decks do tend to play Irida now, so we'll have to see whether or not he's going to try to pull that one off again. Looks like his opponent is Grant Hayes as well here. These are all fairly recent achievements as well. Secaucus top 16, Dallas top 8, Collinsville top 8, DC Open top 8 as well. The Opens at Worlds are always very interesting tournaments. They're just like a regional championships, except they just don't give money. So they're like a regular regional championship, because those things don't give any money either. So he is the one person on the Mew VMAX deck. You had to assume that either Moffitt or him were going to be featured in this top 8 match, just because they're the only 2 in the room that aren't playing Lugia, and they thankfully are also not playing each other. So in order to avoid as many mirror matches of Lugia as possible, they're going to feature the decks that aren't Lugia in top. So I'm assuming I believe Moffitt was a top 4 match. I do believe he gets there. I'm not sure who wins out of Isaiah or Grant, though, because I really just don't pay attention to results until after I watch the full stream, and it usually takes me a week or 2 to watch the full stream here. They are putting out their prize cards. We're going to see if anything is relevant here. 1 Mew VMAX from Grant, 1 Luminium from Isaiah. Double choice belt from Isaiah as well. That could definitely come up. Lugia with multiple powerful colorless energies and a choice belt can one-shot a Mew VMAX, I believe. Let's see. So we go, yeah, 3 powerful colorless energies and a choice belt gets you there. If it's just 4 powerful colorless energies, you are actually 10 short. So prizing the double choice belt is fairly relevant, especially if Isaiah is playing that Tech Irida. He won't be able to just immediately search his deck for that item card. We do see Isaiah looks like he may have won the coin flip here, because he is the one currently thinking. Yeah, he's the one who went first. He did start the Raikou, That's not too bad in this matchup, honestly. You can soften up some Mews so that things like Lugia can get easier one-shots on it later in the game. You could always knock out an Oricorio and then put some damage onto the Mew, or you can just snipe a couple Genesects a couple of times and take 4 prizes in one turn that way, effectively skipping a Roxanne turn if you've already taken 2 prize cards. We do just see that it was an Aurora Energy attached to discard an Archeops and a benching of a Lugia turn 1 for Isaiah. That's really all that's needed. A second Archeops in the discard would have been ideal, but not necessary. We've at least got one in there for now and just a pass of the turn. Mew can't attack turn 1 if it's just the double turbo build, the one without the Meloetta and Elisa Sparkle. But the deck overall after turn 1 is just so much better without all of those dead cards clunking your deck. So Isaiah knows that, chooses to only bench 1 Lugia. Even if he had an out to get a second Lugia, he doesn't need it because he knows that Grant is only playing the double turbo build. If he knew Grant was on Meloettas, then he probably would have wanted to get 2 Lugia Vs in play turn 1, just to make sure that there is a second one in play, even if one gets knocked out. That's a little bit of an intricacy to this type of matchup. So when you get to top 8, you generally know any of the odd tricks that your opponents are playing in their decks. Naturally, you've gone through 2 days of the tournament already. You know most of, if not the exact 60 that your opponent is playing at this point when you get to top 8. So he likely knows that Grant is on no Meloettas. He also likely knows that the Leafy Camo Poncho is there as well. So Grant just doing some Mew things here. Got 2 Genesects and a Mew here onto the bench. With that Oricorio active, Ultra Balls for yet another Mew V. Getting a minimum of 2 Mew V into play is generally what you want to do, because again, for the same reason that you would want to bench a second Lugia if you're against the Meloetta version of Mew, you want to get 2 Mew Vs into play minimum turn 1 to make sure that if your opponent does some sort of gusting effect, they don't one-shot your one and only Mew V in play, thus preventing you from being able to attack the next turn by not having something that can evolve into the Mew VMAX. You always want to make sure that there is an attacker ready, willing, and able to just show up and do things. Looks like Grant goes for the Aerodactyl as his 5th Pokemon in play as well on the bench, or 6th Pokemon overall. The Aerodactyl is really good because if Isaiah manages to miss the Lugia VSTAR on this next turn, or miss the second Archeops and potentially pass without using Summoning Star, Grant could just come in and effectively win the game by evolving into Aerodactyl VSTAR and using the VSTAR attack, which creates an ability on his Aerodactyl that says that the opponent's Pokemon don't have abilities. I believe it's just the Pokemon Vs. But either way, if that happens, you make sure Summoning Star never comes online, which means that the Archeops never come online, which means that none of the Pokemon can ever get energies in play except for hard attaching one a turn. So, very interesting inclusion to have the Aerodactyl in a Mew VMAX deck. I don't personally like it. I feel that you can just beat Lugia with a good judge path, basically. And that otherwise the Aerodactyl just kind of clunks up your deck and makes it so you don't draw as many cards. Just reduces your consistency. And the whole reason that you're playing the double turbo energy build is that you want to make sure you maximize your consistency. So putting that Aerodactyl down is something that he really kind of had to do with the way his deck is built. And of course, Isaiah just immediately has the Evolution Incense to get that Lugia V-Star. Now the only thing is, will Isaiah be able to get a second Archeops in the discard? So the other cool thing about just benching the Aerodactyl here is that it does pressure Isaiah to get that VSTAR power going this turn. If he does not do it this turn, he could potentially have 0 Archeops in play. So even if he can't get the second one in the discard to get the full 2 Archeops off the Summoning Star, he's going to have to use Summoning Star this turn or else. Would have been great if Grant was also able to put a Path to the Peak in play, just to have that additional security against the Summoning Star potentially. We do see Capture Energy going down onto this Lugia V. He's going to grab an Oranguru straight out of his deck to get that Monkey Primate Wisdom going. Monkey Man does his monkey things, can put energy that's in your hand back to the top of the deck so that you can charge it back up with the Archeops. I always mix up Archeops and Aerodactyl because they're both fossil Pokemon and they're both birds and they sound very similar in my head. So if I ever say one or the other, I apologize. But they're both being played in this match, so it's a little confusing for some reason. When it gets to be quite literally over 1,000 Pokemon in existence, you start mixing some up unintentionally, even when you know the names of every single one by heart, because I've been playing Pokemon games since quite literally the release of Yellow, watching the anime since the first episode aired. But man, 1,000 Pokemon, it's very easy to get those things mixed up. They're both fossil birds. They both start with A. We do see the Evo Incense is going to get a second Archeops. Let's see if he will be able to discard that. We already know he has that Lugia V-Star in hand, so he will be able to use the Summoning Star. So, just as long as... No. Ooh, no. It looks like he didn't have a way to discard that Archeops that he just searched. So, he got it just to get it out of the deck. But he does use the Summoning Star just because he knows that Aerodactyl can come online next turn. Uses the Aerodactyl... as I just said, mixing them up now because they're both in play. The Archeops' ability to put 2 powerful colorless energies on his Lugia, but unfortunately, since he only has 1 Archeops in play, that's only 2 energy cards per turn. So if he wants to maximize the amount of damage that he is doing, he can't put a double turbo on his Lugia. I would have personally liked to see the double Auroras potentially come down on the Raikou, or if he's playing maybe Speed Lightning and Aurora, to put that on the Raikou, take the knockout on the Oricorio, and soften up the Mew VMAX there on the bench, but I think either way it's probably fine. I think he's reaching for the one-shot, but I don't know if he's checked to see that those 2 choice belts are in prize cards. It's very unlikely that he's playing 3 copies. We see the Cram flipping tails, because why wouldn't it? That's how I flip my Crams all the time. Lost City also comes in play. That's not super relevant against Lugia. They don't really play any sort of Pokemon recovery cards in their deck whatsoever, so this Raikou was going to be gone no matter what as soon as it's knocked out either way. Although it does come into play to make sure that Grant can dig as far as he possibly can. He wants to attack that Lugia or that Archeops. He doesn't want to attack the Raikou right now. If he attacks the Archeops and knocks it out, that makes sure that Isaiah can only attach for turn. But if he goes for the Lugia, that's his main attacker right now. So he would have essentially 2 turns to get the Archeops out of play. I think getting rid of the Archeops is probably the most correct decision, especially knowing that Isaiah doesn't have access to choice belts most likely in this game. So the Mew is fairly unthreatened by the Lugia V-Star. We do see Primal Turbo again. I think that we're going to be considering the Raikou play this time. And yep, we do see Speed Lightning Aurora, as I said. He's going to be taking the knockout on this Oricorio and softening something up on the bench. If he was able to get multiple attacks out of the Raikou, it would be nice to soften up a Genesect so that you could two-shot that on the bench, but otherwise, it's a lot more wise, especially with those Choice Belts prize, to soften up that Mew VMAX to make sure that that thing is going to go down. It would also be really nice to see a V-Guard energy on that Lugia VSTAR. Unfortunately, it's just an attach of the capture energy to get the Lugia V. Since he only has the one Archeops, even if the V-Guard energy is in deck, if he plays that, he has no way to charge that because he had to use the ability on his Raikou. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're gonna hit 100 onto the active and 100 onto the bench because the Oricorio reduces damage by 20. Oricorio actually gets Lost Zone, which could be relevant, actually. Grant probably plays Silene. A lot of Mew decks do play Silene. So if he wants to continue reducing damage in the future and get that Oricorio back, that's no longer an option because of his own Lost City. Although, I don't know... Oh, and then it auto-plays directly to some Yu-Gi-Oh video. Okay, so here we are. I hate that I always turn off autoplay and then YouTube still autoplays. So I apologize for that. So it looks like it did cut out a little bit. So this is the problem with this top 8 match, right? It did cut out, but it also looks like it cut out that whole match. So Isaiah did end up winning game 1, it looks like. I thought that this went straight into this other one, but apparently not. I would have loved to see how that game finished. But as you can see now, it looks like Isaiah did win game 1. He probably sniped the bench and got that Mew VMAX softened up, and then was able to sort of steamroll from there. Likely only had the Lugia VSTAR as his only 2 prize Pokemon, and likely went for single prize cards after that as his only Pokemon in play. Surprising that he was able to get that far with just the one Archeops. However, if Grant is never able to take out the Archeops while also applying pressure to any of the Pokemon that can attack, you know, that loses him the game there. So it looks like Isaiah did win game 1. I apologize that there is no more match left for that, but we go straight into game 2 here. Looks like Isaiah was able to set up a Lugia with a capture energy to get another Lugia, along with a Manaphy on the bench. He probably started the Manaphy, in all honesty. He may have started the Lugia. But Grant, this is most likely Grant's second turn. Yeah, Grant likely went first, since he lost game 1. This was Isaiah's first turn. And then Grant here has a Aerodactyl VSTAR already powered up with the double turbo energy. Its VSTAR power attack does only cost 1 colorless, so it is able to attack with just the double turbo energy. So you see on his second turn here of game 2, he is able to put the Lost City into play here, and he is just going to be able to retreat this Mew VMAX into the Aerodactyl VSTAR. And he will be able to use that VSTAR attack in order to make sure that Summoning Star can never go online. Yep, so that is Ancient Star. So an attack that gives itself an ability that's also a V-Star power. It's very complicated and odd. And that Aerodactyl quite literally does nothing else for the rest of the game. If I were Isaiah, I would just scoop and go to the next game personally, but he's likely played against this version of the deck before. This isn't the first time that we've seen Aerodactyl VSTAR be played in Mew decks, so Isaiah likely has a bunch of testing against this specific version of the deck as well. I believe it may have been Xander Pero who played the Aerodactyl VSTAR at first. I could be completely wrong. but Isaiah may know that there is a way around this. Although I do suppose that as long as he can remove the Aerodactyl VSTAR from the game, he can then get his abilities back online, because that ability is on the Aerodactyl VSTAR. So we're going to see there are 42 minutes left of the match. Isaiah is likely confident that over the course of a couple more turns, he might be able to power up a Lugia VSTAR to one-shot the Aerodactyl VSTAR. Especially since we just saw that he was able to remove the big charm off of the Aerodactyl VSTAR that Grant plays. That was attached to it already. He was able to Lost Vacuum that to get that out of the game. And we do see Read the Wind unfortunately had to discard Aurora Energy, but as of right now, Isaiah is only hard attaching for turn. Grant will be able to retreat this Aerodactyl. It does have a 2 retreat cost, so that double turbo is perfectly fine as a way to retreat that to go back into the Mew VMAX. He also does have a fully powered Leafy Camo Poncho Mew VMAX on his bench as well. We are going to see, it looks like Power Tablet Retreat. So that Mew is able to take the one-shot on that Lugia V, and I think that this is already game for Isaiah. Yeah, at this point, if you're Isaiah, I don't know what you do in this particular game. Unless you're just trying to gain more information about Grant's deck, but at this point, you know he plays Big Charm, Leafy Camo Poncho, with no choice belts, along with the 1/1 Aerodactyl line. And honestly, besides that, the deck should be very standard. We do see the VSTAR come out with a powerful colorless energy on it. We do see the Serena to bring the Aerodactyl V back up, so it is possible, or the Aerodactyl VSTAR rather. So it is possible that Isaiah's game plan here is to just stick the Aerodactyl active and force Grant to continuously commit energy cards to retreat it, and Grant could potentially end up running out of energy. Even if Grant is able to retreat, he does have the Manaphy up, and the Aerodactyl and the Lugia VSTAR will have enough HP so that it's not one-shot by a Mew, especially since Grant doesn't play those choice belts. And we already saw one Power Tablet at least come down. So yeah, that's Isaiah's game plan, is he's just like hoping that Grant doesn't have Cross Switcher. And even if he does, the Lugia VSTAR is going to last an additional turn. We're going to see if that ends up working out for him. But again, with 40 minutes left on the clock, it being top 8, you do generally have more time than normal. About 75 minutes usually. We do see another double turbo energy, a boss's orders, retreat, and this is Isaiah's least favorite way for this game to go down. He is going to get hit by the Mew, probably for 190 only. Oh no, I think he went for Max Miracle. He has 2 Mew VMAX in play. So yeah, that's 110. So this Mew VMAX can just stay active and finish off the Lugia VSTAR on the next turn. So now what Isaiah needs is yet another Lugia V on the bench, or a way to switch his Pokemon like Bird Keeper to go back into that Manaphy. So yeah, so I think you go for the Lugia V with that Capture Energy, and then Bird Keeper into the Manaphy would be the best course of action to try to keep this going. Either that or another Boss's Orders or Serena onto that Aerodactyl VSTAR and just hope that Grant yet again doesn't have the double turbo or the cross switcher, but he already had it last turn. It's probable that he can have it again. He does have 3 Genesects in play. That's quite a lot of draw potential that he has. And we do see that Boss's Orders. So if it is the cross switcher, Grant can take out the Lugia V, but he won't be able to take out the Lugia VSTAR. So that gives Isaiah more time to build up this board. If we see Isaiah get that double turbo energy down, he can soften up that Aerodactyl V-Star and then have the knockout the next turn. So it just needs Grant to whiff this turn and the next turn. But with 3 Genesects in play, and all of the cards that Mew can usually use to discard cards, I'm not thinking that that's super likely. And of course we get the heads on the Cramomatic, so highly possible. Yeah, it looks like we're playing Switch in this deck, so we are just going to Switch, hit the Lugia V-Star, knock it out, go down to 2 prize cards, and then the Lugia V is easy pickings in the future. So we're going to have to see Isaiah yet again get a Serena or Boss's Orders onto that Aerodactyl yet again. Ooh, and even the Silene for good measure is pretty rude. It is double tails though, so that's good for Isaiah. And there's the double turbo. It is very important to know, I do believe that that double turbo energy that is on the Mew VMAX is the only one left for Grant. I do believe he's now used 3 double turbo energies on this Aerodactyl V-Star. Yeah, I can see him in the discard. Because we had the original he retreated off, and then he's been essentially bossed up twice. So each time he's retreated. So Isaiah knows this. He knows that that Mew VMAX is the only energy in play. So if he can do that one more time, but I know Grant has access to that switch in hand or deck. So if there's another boss or Serena, Grant has the out. If he doesn't have the out in hand already, it's just easy discards. And you can even draw pass for a few turns since there are no energy in play for Isaiah. But I do like to see that Isaiah didn't just immediately scoop. He knows what his outs are in this matchup. He knows what he can do to get around this Aerodactyl V-Star. And that just shows why he's here in top 8, like how skilled of a player he is. We're also going to see that Charizard V-Star, or Radiant Charizard go down on the bench as well. That can attack for 1 energy as long as he gets a Heat Fire or Aurora energy. We do know that he's discarded at least 1 Auroras at this point. I'm not sure if he plays the Heat Fire. But either way, if he can get a Choice Belt on that Radiant Charizard, he should be able to one-shot the Aerodactyl V-Star. But again, he does have the double Choice Belt in his prize cards, and I do believe that that is the main reason, or that was the previous game, right? I don't actually know what his prize cards are looking like this game. He does likely have access. It's unlikely he prized double Choice Belt 2 games in a row. But yeah, I am mixing up the 2 games a little bit since that first game ended so abruptly and we lost a good chunk of that footage because reasons. It just happens, internet sometimes. They are in a venue, they don't really have control over the power of the internet that they have, whether it's going to go down or not. So yeah, we do see the Lugia V-Star for extra HP. Just a pass on to Grant. Grant can just Max Miracle again for another 110. It would be perfectly fine. We do see there's also an Escape Rope in deck for Grant as well, which isn't something that you usually see the double turbo energy builds of Mew playing, but I suppose with the Aerodactyl V-Star, that's really the perfect thing to have in there. And we do see the Pal Pad gets back in, I believe, Silene boss. I definitely saw the boss. We're going to see 4 cards get drawn for Grant. Draws that beautiful Battle VIP pass. You love to see it. Grant's considering playing the Escape Rope. I would not do that. Yeah, I would not in any situation play that Escape Rope. I think that that's too important if Isaiah just has yet another Gusting effect. Unless you're 100% sure that Isaiah doesn't have access to any more. If you went through his discard, counted how many were left. and know his exact deck list at this point in the tournament. That Aerodactyl has been bossed and Serena'd up. So I guess if Isaiah only plays one of each. See if we can check in his discard. There is a Serena and a boss. I don't see any extra copies of them, but I could have just easily missed it. He went through that discard pile pretty fast. We are just going to max Miracle most likely onto that Manaphy. And Isaiah scoops up that game and shakes his hand. So we are going to go down to Game 3 now. Again, unfortunate we weren't able to see how Game 1 finished. But I hope I did a good enough job trying to explain how I assumed it went. Sometimes you could just see a board state and be like, okay, this is probably how the next 3 turns went. Trying to see these prize cards here. We do see one Archeops here in Game 3 for Isaiah. So that could reduce the consistency of getting the Archeops down turn 1. Still, pretty amazed that he was able to win Game 1 with only one Archeops. You'd think that at some point Grant would have gotten a boss to be able to knock it out, but looks like that hadn't happened. We do see a Mew VMAX and a Genesect in the prize cards for Grant, along with that Pal Pad. We do know that that Pal Pad came in clutch for Grant in that previous game, to where he was able to recycle a Boss's Orders and Silene. And if that Silene went off, he could have, of course, recycled that Pal Pad yet again. Unfortunate start with the Luminian V for Isaiah, but there are worse things to start with in this deck, I suppose. You could always start Radiant Charizard. Isaiah's just checking his prize cards, making sure he has which Pokemon he has access to, which energies he has access to. Those are the things you generally want to check in the Lugia deck. You want to see, okay, what are my counts on colored energies? What are my counts on the colorless energies? Do I have access to my V-Guard energy if I want to use it? How many powerful colorless energies do I have? Can I reach for those knockouts with my Archeops when they're in play? If I have to discard an Aurora at some point, do I have enough other colored energies to still attack with Raikou? Do I have the Raikou in deck? Do I have enough Archeops? Do I have all my Lugia VSTARs so I can even use Summoning Star? That's another reason why I don't think people should be playing the 3-2 Lugia VSTAR line, is just because if you're playing 2 Lugia VSTARs, you prize both of them, you lose. So it's much more punishing than prizing a Arceus V-Star, and I know a lot of people were playing like a 4-2 of Arceus at some point. Just because you always want to start it, but generally you have your tech attackers like the Flying Pikachu that you would always want to use instead. So Lugia, in a way, deck builds somewhat similarly to Arceus in that way. However, if you don't get the Summoning Star off, you lose. So, whereas in something like Arceus Flying Pikachu, you can just attach to the Pikachu twice and get going. You can still charge up your attackers using just the Arceus V. But yeah, the Capture Energy gets the Lugia V down, and that's it for Isaiah. Perfectly fine start. You do want to see those Archeops in the discard pile, but you can still get them in turn 2, and it'll be fine. Grant gets the turn 1 Battle VIP pass. That is the perfect start for him. He's got to get that Aerodactyl down this turn. If Isaiah is able to whiff, again, the Archeops in the discard pile or getting the Lugia V-Star into hand, just having that Aerodactyl V-Star is potentially enough to win the game, but you saw how it's not just a straight auto win, like in that last game. Isaiah was almost able to clutch it out. If Grant prizes one too many switch cards, Isaiah can always just steamroll with a bunch of Boss and Serena. But as we saw in the prize cards, I don't believe he prized any switch cards. Yep, so we see the full board. Cram heads. Yeah, so this is the God start from Grant. He has everything he possibly wants. I think he even has 0 cards in hand at this point. So he's going to be drawing the full 5 cards. Because he does have Aerodactyl. That is not a Fusion Strike Pokemon. Ooh, and he is going for the Judge. I do like that. Judge Isaiah's hand make it so that it's more likely to be a brick for him. Even when you see Lugia not play cards turn 1 generally, all they do is get that Lugia V down. It kind of looks like they're bricking, but sometimes they just actually do have the God hand. They could have just double Archeops Research Lugia VSTAR or something like that in their hands. I've definitely seen that happen against me multiple times. I'm very curious to see what Isaiah is able to draw here. He might not even look at his hand until his turn. Yeah, I always love watching Isaiah because he's always so stressed. Look at him hold his head. He's like, I want to win this tournament. I get second at every tournament I go to. I want to win this one. Don't knock me out in top 8. Grant still playing cards. Gets that Leafy Camo Poncho on that Mew V that's in the active. Already searches for the Aerodactyl to have that in hand already. Quick balls away a switch. That's a little risky in my opinion. To just fail it and draw more cards, I would not be doing that. Maybe he's looking to just have the double turbo in hand already, but yeah, I think getting rid of the switch is too risky. Because you saw how that last game went. The Aerodactyl did win you the game, but Isaiah tried his hardest to get through that. And he was able to run you out of energy doing that. So you need to make sure you conserve those switch cards. You have 1 escape rope, 1 switch, and then maybe your cross switchers. I haven't really seen him play cross switcher though. But I can't imagine he's not playing cross switcher. He does put the path down as well, so that is perfect. That is what I wanted to see game 1, is because he is going second with Mew, and he does put up the Aerodactyl as well. So I like that. So if the path is able to be bumped, Aerodactyl doesn't really do much of anything in this matchup, right? Since Grant had to go second, Isaiah does have a chance to take a knockout if he's able to bump this path out of the game, get the Lugia VSTAR into play, as well as 1 or 2 Archeops in the discard pile. That Aerodactyl essentially becomes useless on the bench, so by retreating the Mew into that, if that path gets bumped and Isaiah gets the God start, for lack of a better term, you want that Aerodactyl knocked out more than anything, because the Aerodactyl is just useless if Summoning Star has already gone off. But then going into Grant's turn, if Summoning Star hasn't happened, you already have it active. All you need is Energy V-Star, which we know he has the V-Star in hand. It's already active and you just go off to the races. We do see a research from Isaiah. He's going to draw a bunch of cards. Hopefully we get there. Are we going to see a game, or is it going to be a lot like game 2? We do see another Evo Incense, so we are going to be getting the Lugia V-Star, it looks like. Are we going to get another Archeops in the discard pile? I think there's 1 in there. I couldn't really tell if there was anything else in his hand when he played the research. You gotta think, though, if he went for the V-Star, he probably has Well, he has the one Archeops in discard pile, so you're going to use that VSTAR power either way, as long as you can get the path out. We do see the Quick Ball gets the Pumpkaboo, and that is the out that we needed if we are Isaiah here. Yep, so we are going to see the Summoning Star. We're going to get at least one Archeops. Looks like two. There were two in there. So this is going to go a lot better for him than Game 1, which he ended up winning off-screen. Or off-stream, rather. And yeah, since Grant was able to retreat into that Aerodactyl, it's useless now that the Summoning Star went off. So if Isaiah does retreat and want to take 2 prize cards, he's going to be knocking out that Aerodactyl, and Grant is fine with that. If anything on Grant's board gets knocked out, he wants it to be that Aerodactyl. But Isaiah doesn't really care what he's knocking out on this turn. He just cares that he's taking the first 2 prize cards. He also goes for the V-Guard energy as well, knowing that his opponent does not have... Ooh, even the additional capture energy for good measure is great. Yeah, Isaiah knows that Grant is not playing any choice belts, so he would need quad power tablet in order to knock out a Lugia V-Star. But he's got that V-Guard energy, so there's... it's pretty much impossible that that Mew is going to be able to take a one-shot on the Lugia here. So just on this turn of the game, it's pretty much showing that this may be a landslide victory for Isaiah this game. And it's also amazing that Aerodactyl Path Judge was not enough to stop Isaiah. He just had all the outs. And that's how all of my games in Florida were going. I wasn't playing Aerodactyl in my deck, but all my Path Judges just never stuck. We even have the follow-up Yveltal that we were able to get off that second capture energy that was on the Luminian. So on the next turn, you could always retreat that Lugia that'll take damage and just one-shot a Mew VMAX with that Yveltal. And then you're down to 1 prize. And all you need to do is knock out that Oricorio to win the game. So on turn 2, Isaiah's already put Grant in check. So if you are playing chess, you know, check is when you've got that king pinned down. And there potentially is a way that your opponent can get out of it, but like you essentially have like the knife to the throat of the king. So not necessarily checkmate yet, but we're getting close. I don't think Grant plays any funky tech cards like Fan of Waves. That would be real cute to get rid of the V-Guard energy. Another thing that would be really good right now if he was able to cross-switcher up the Yveltal and knock that out with something like a Max Miracle or a Technoblast. Because the Yveltal is very threatening. Unlike that first game where there was only one Archeops down. See, I'm doing it again. In game 1, when there was only one Archeops down, there was the potential for Grant to just chase that down and knock it out, and then make it so Isaiah doesn't really have an out to getting those energies that he needs in play. Since there's 2 here now, he would have to do it twice, and over those 2 turns, you would be bossing those Archeops out. He could just load a whole bunch of energy on that Yveltal, and then he has Lugia and Yveltal set up, and at that point, by the time those 2 go down, you could just hard power up another attacker like the Luminian, or even one of your Archeops, or the Pumpkaboo. You could just hard attach to the Pumpkaboo. Do like 10. So we do see the Judge from Grant. Not sure if that really affects anything that Isaiah does at this point, because pretty much everything that Isaiah wants, he already has in play. The contents of his hand don't matter too much, especially on this turn. Grant's only option for attacking is the Mew VMAX, and that is sort of one of the fragile things about the Mew deck, is that if you just have a way to one-shot the Mew VMAX, like, Mew goes on back foot real easily. So that Yveltal is there. Grant needs to be able to take that out this turn in order to have any sort of chance to even win this game still. And that's why I said he's in check. He can get out of it potentially by getting rid of the Yveltal, but it looks like he's just trying to power through the Lugia VMAX. We see 4 Power Tablet. So we are doing 220, 5, 8. That is enough for a knockout. So he does one-shot that Lugia VSTAR. And now the Yveltal comes out. That's going to be able to one-shot the Mew VMAX, and then Isaiah can just put another attacker like a Charizard down on the bench. Even the Luminion is enough, because that can always knock out an Oricorio. I'm not 100% sure if Oricorio is weak to water or not, but either way, it's doing enough damage. Even just with the 100 through the Oricorio's ability, it's still 10 more than it needs to knock out. So Isaiah has his 4 prize cards that are left already completely mapped out. We do see Primal Turbo coming down. We're going to see... the first one's going to get 2 colored energies for Yveltal. We do see, it looks like Heat Fire and Aurora. That second Archeops is likely going to get another colored energy of some sort, along with a colorless energy, which could potentially be a double turbo that would fully power up the Yveltal. If he doesn't have any double turbo in deck, he could always just get something like a capture energy and then attach any energy he has from hand. We do see there's an Aurora there. He's eyeing up the capture energy and even a powerful colorless energy, which is honestly fine to attach. Looks like we're going to go 1 Aurora. He's still thinking on if he wants to do another one. He might have a double turbo in hand. Yeah, he hasn't shuffled, so he can still change his mind on his attach. He's counting all of his energies. The scary thing is if Isaiah does not have one in hand, and now he needs to dig into one, because you would want to do that before you use Archeops. Okay, looks like we're just going for that 1. He probably does have the double turbo in hand that he's willing to commit. Yeah, we do. We see that. He is also going to go for the Evolution Incense just to thin his deck. Probably going to get another Archeops just to discard it. So this would be great if Grant, instead of playing the Leafy Camo Poncho, played Big Parasol instead. That would prevent the Yveltal from being able to take the one-shot using the effect of its attack. Because the attack actually doesn't do damage, it just says your opponent's knocked out. So that's an effect of an attack. We also see it looks like Stoutland is going to be the next potential attacker from Isaiah as well. So we have both, we have Luminion, double Archeops, and the Stoutland that can all take a knockout on that Oricorio, or even the Genesect in the future. That does take those 3 prize cards, thanks to the overwhelming might of the amazing rare Yveltal. We go down to 1 prize, and Grant now needs to take 4 prizes before Isaiah takes 1. And that Oricorio being on the bench is super scary for Grant. Because that is boss food. We do see the Big Charm on the Mew, but honestly, that doesn't really matter too much. You're going to be 2-shotting this Mew no matter what, so the Big Charm doesn't really help. I would have put the Big Charm on the Oricorio, although I do think it has... yeah, I do think it looks like water weakness. It might have lightning weakness. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. I play the card, but weakness has never come into play, so... if it doesn't have water weakness, I would have liked to see the Big Charm on the Oricorio. But otherwise, it doesn't matter where you put it. So that puts it to 340. Yeah. Yeah, I think Oricorio has water weakness, so it's better on the Mew VMAX, but still. I don't think the 30 damage is going to matter. 30 extra HP. Do see a Quick Ball is going to get a Mew V, probably. That's the only Pokemon in his deck, so if he just wants to draw more cards. Yeah, I'm not sure what you do now if you're Grant, because you didn't take that Yveltal out the previous turn. Yeah, you needed to prevent a Mew from being one-shot so that you can stay favored in the prize trade. And since he didn't draw into the cards he needed, it's just not happening. You see he's going to draw a few more cards. We have Escape Rope. I don't think that really does anything for you. The most threatening thing in play right now is that Yveltal, so you do have to remove that and then just hope that Isaiah just doesn't have anything. Maybe he's looking for a Judge. But then again, your own deck is so small that does it even really matter at this point? You might end up decking yourself out, digging for it. Oh, we see the Roxanne. That's pretty good. So that will be Grant's hope to get back in the game, is the Roxanne. He is going to draw a bunch of cards, though. He has a very small deck. But yeah, as long as that bricks Isaiah enough, Grant can end up moving on to top 4. So we will have to see. The other scary thing, too, for Grant is that he doesn't have a second Mew VMAX in play, so his only option in order to take out the Yveltal is by copying Technoblast. Looks like Isaiah did accidentally drop one of the cards that was in Grant's deck, and he just asked for a Judge Shuffle because he was dropping shit. Yeah, so Grant has 4 cards left in deck. He's still considering... Okay, he's going to play the Path as well, which will prevent a Luminion from coming into play, so I do like that, especially since Grant's deck is so small at this point. Like, he just should have access to everything that he really needs in his hand already, with the size that it is. He also has the 4 Sealstone, it looks like, as well, so if he just puts that down on a Genesect, he can just grab whatever card he needs from his deck at any point, if he needs something like a Judge in the future or something. I don't think he really does, though. We are going to knock out the Yveltal, so there is the potential that this could work out for him. Oh, we do see the Raikou, though. Raikou comes down. So that is why Isaiah was counting those energies in the previous turn, is because he wanted to make sure that he had the energy for the Raikou after using the Yveltal. So that is actually perfect. So Isaiah is able to bench the Raikou out of nowhere, fully charge it up, retreat into it, and then snipe the Oricorio on the bench for 100, 10 more than it needs to knock out, take that last prize card. And Isaiah ends up winning this top 8 match. So that was actually really great to watch. Again, I wish we could have saw the rest of game 1, but oh well, it happens. Hopefully I did a good enough job filling in the gaps for everybody, because I'm assuming that that's what happened. I didn't get to watch it live, because I always just like to watch the VODs, and sometimes technology just gets the best of us. But yeah, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and all of that good stuff if you did enjoy the video, or hate it. I don't care. Do whatever you want. And I will see you guys next time when we get to top 4. I do believe it is Nick Moffat in top 4 playing, because my friends were watching it in our hotel room while we were chilling and testing for Knoxville, so... We will see you then.